Hey everyone, in this video we're going to look at Agentic Bookmaker, which creates books and then creates websites with them along with their full audio, just like this.
Chapter 1 Echoes from
It all starts with a graph. This text can be anything. For example, in this case, it's just tourism in Japan, Wikipedia article, and it extracts at first attempt, first step, it extracts facts out of this grounding text, as many as possible. And then it creates characters. It creates characters based on each one of those facts. You also specify a description for the book. In this case, it was comedy romance. And then after that, it creates chapters. It creates a plot based on the facts and the characters. And then it creates chapter outlines based on all of those. And then at this point, we trigger parallel agents, which is going to write each one of the chapters separately without knowing what the other agent is writing. And we get all chapters JSON. Each one of these chapters are written in parallel by a separate agent. And after that, we convert each part into an audio file and then into a full audio. About 4 chapters, makes about 30 minutes long. And this also is designed to convert this into a book with chapter selection, making the text larger or smaller, and page flipping. So let's see how this works. The important parts of this code is the agentic bookmaker, the agents, which include all of our agents. It has 4 static agents and as many dynamic agents as there are chapters, and some helper files, some helper functions. Requirements is Anthropic, OpenAI, sound file, and term color. I also made a README for it. So to start with, you want to, under the data folder, you want to have some grounding text. This can literally be anything. Like I said, I used tourism in Japan. I used the Diatlo Pass incident. It can even be code. I actually gave it its own code here, Agentic Bookmaker. So I gave it its own code and it created this book based on that. Very interesting indeed. It's about data and data facilities, and so it's like a mystery thriller. But enough of this. Let's run it and see how it works. By the way, these code files will be available at my Patreon for Connoisseur Plus patrons. Link will be in the description. So when we first run this, it asks us a description of the book. By the way, this creates fictional books. Just so you know, it's designed to create fictional books. So we're going to use the grounding text for, let's say, Paprikar's constant. I'm just going to copy it and put it in the grounding text. It can't really be anything. Description, let's say comedy mystery. This is a mathematical situation. So let's see what it does. We can select how many chapters, usually 3 or 4. It's pretty good. Let's go ahead and select 4. And then it's going to actually have a scratch pad. And then it's going to extract all the facts it can, what the Capricorn constant is, all the stuff that it can find from this grounding text, and it's going to write it under JSON file under facts. So these are all the facts we were able to extract. And then next up is the characters. So it is a scratchpad. It's creating a mathematician, detective, quirky librarian, eccentric retired math teacher, young prodigy hacker. So it's creating 7 characters along with their names, as you can see. And after that, it's going to write it to characters JSON file. And after that, it should create a plot. It's creating a genre and a setting, a bustling university town with rich mathematical history, main characters, plot summary, exposition. Constance is introduced as she investigates a seemingly harmless prank, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution. There's subplots. So these are written to plot.json, which you can observe. It also has themes. And after that, it's generating all 4 chapters in parallel. These are going to go in here. I should have actually deleted these. Yeah, let me go ahead And once these are done, these are all going to be added into all chapters.json under chapters folder. And here we have it. And after that, we are creating the audios as well in parallel using OpenAI text-to-speech. We can actually take a look at the book already. So this is what it is. It's the chapter name, the Numerator's Gambit. It has 4 chapters. Okay, once all the audios for the chapters are done, then we combine them in audiobook.
Chapter 1. The Constant Conundrum. Professor Constance
Maybe towards the end of the video, I'll play a little more. So in a nutshell, this is how you give a grounding text and grounding text.txt. This can be any text, like I said, and then it creates 4 static agents, creates extract facts, creates characters, and then a plot, and then chapter outlines, and then dynamically we spawn as many agents as there are chapter outlines and create those chapters, write them into all chapters.json under chapters, get each part's audio, and then combine them into full audiobook. Plus this book.html actually handles the old chapters.json to create the book in a visual format in an HTML. I would like to take a moment to talk about the benefits of becoming a patron. As some of you may know, in the last year and a half, I've spent 3,000 hours, over 300 projects. As a patron, you will have access to all the code files so you can get inspiration and iterate quickly. Another benefit is that you'll have access to all my courses. And my most recent and most proud one, the 1000x Masterclass, teaching what I've learned on how to code fast and efficiently. Also the Streamlit course and the Fast API course. In my Patreon, I also have tiers in which you can connect with me one-on-one. Check those out as well. So this agentic system consists of several files. There's the agents.py, which defines all of our agents. Then we have some helper functions. And then agentic bookmaker brings them all together. We also have the book.html under chapters folder, which is going to actually create our book webpage. Let's start with the agentic bookmaker.py, which is our main entry point, and then we can explore the rest of the code as well. So we import all of our agents from agents module and our helpers from helpers. And we assign the text source as grounding text.txt. This is going to come from under data folder. Then we ask user to enter a description for the book. This can be anything. I usually just enter genres, and then we select we ask user to enter how many chapters they want. Then we have those. We grab the text from the grounding text under data folder, and then we simply first get the facts. And then we save them under JSON to facts.json. And then using the facts plus the book description, we generate the characters, and then we save it under characters.json. And then we use the facts plus the characters to create a plot, and we save it under plot.json, under JSON folder. And then we using the facts, characters, the plot, and the book chapters, we create chapter outlines, and we save it to chapters.json. And then we have a generate and save chapters function, which takes in the facts, characters, plot, and the chapters, and using async actually calls the generate and save chapter all in parallel using async.io create task and async.io.gather, and actually creates all of our chapters. Once it's done, we save it all to all chapters.json because we have created an empty dictionary which we use to dump into this file. This is all of our chapters. They're actually out of order. I thought I fixed that, but it's not that big of a deal, I suppose. And then right after that, we have generate and save chapters, which takes in facts, characters, plot, chapters, current chapter, chapter number, and all chapters, and call the chapter generator async. Okay, actually, this one is called generate and save chapters, and this is to generate a single chapter. That is what we're calling in async.io.create task. It's a very subtle difference, but pay attention to that. We call generate and save chapter under the generate and save chapters function. So generate and save chapter, which we're calling in parallel with async.io.create task, actually calls the chapter generator async, which is actually one of our agents in agents.py. We're going to take a look at that. Then pretty much extracts chapter content from the response, parse the chapter text to extract chapter number, just like this, because due to the way I prompted it, actually this could have been better, but nevertheless, since it's using Cloud 3.5, sometimes this can be difficult, but anyway, it works. Then we create a chapter dictionary with chapter number, title, and content. And then we create an all chapters dictionary, which then actually the generate and save chapters saves into all characters, all chapters.json. And after that, we have another async function. Sorry, right here, generate chapter audios. So for chapter data in all chapters.item, we extract the chapter number, chapter title, and chapter content, split the content into chunks of 400,000 characters because the Whisper only can accept up to 4,000 characters. Sorry, text-to-speech can accept only up to 4,000 characters. Then we enumerate those chunks and we get the audio. We prepare an audio text by saying the chapter number and the part and the chapter title and the text of that title. And we still do a secondary check to make sure that we don't exceed 4,096 characters. And then we create a task for each chunk's audio generation. So for each task, we call text-to-speech, which is in our agents.py file. I suppose when you look at it that way, you can consider this having 9+ agents, because if you consider text-to-speech as an agentic process as well. But anyway, it calls it, appends to the audio tasks, and then it uses async.io.gather. And then we call the merge audio chapters function, which is this one, which is just going to combine all the audios with using NumPy. Okay, I forgot that we are using NumPy, so I added it to requirements. It essentially just merges all the audio files by going of all the audios, and then it writes it to full audiobook.mp3. So those were the functions. Those were the defined functions, and at the end, we just opened all chapters and actually called the generate chapter audio. So this is how it works. Now let's take a look at the helpers real quick. So we just have a get file contents that just opens and returns the contents of a file, and extract and save JSON, which extracts the JSON format from the agent's response, because we are instructing the agents, as we'll see, to return these facts and whatnot in between JSON XML tags. So this is what it does. It just extracts it and saves it to a file with a given file name. So agents.py is essentially all of our agents using Anthropic, and for colorful printing, term color. We initialize our client. So getFacts agent has a very long system message, but we are using the latest 3.5 Sonnet. I actually used Cloud's API's prompt generator for these. So if you haven't used it, it's very handy. If you go to your Anthropic console, you go to generate prompt, and this is how I actually generated all these. So essentially, it says you'll be given a large text. We give it the text in as a variable, and your task is to carefully read through this task and identify all factual information, such as these. And then we give it a scratch pad to actually think about it first. And then here is the part. We are asking it to return a JSON output, but in between JSON XML tags. And then we simply return it in a streaming fashion. We're colorfully printing this one in green, for example. The next one is character generator that takes in facts and a book description. So here, the exact same call, but with a different system message. You are tasked with generating detailed character descriptions based on given text. Here we present the facts. Stay true to and use the facts provided. The character should be anchored around these facts. We give it the facts. And now consider the description of the book. We give it the description. And again, we have some explanations for the type of characters we're looking for. Then we give it a sketchpad. And again, we ask it to return a JSON object as such, which is the name and a description, name of the character and description of the character. detailed character description, including physical characteristics, personality traits, background, and potential role in history. Yeah, don't forget that you can actually download this project from my Patreon. Link will be in the description. Again, we return the response in streaming fashion, but this time printing it as yellow. Next one is the plot generator agent, which takes in facts and character description. You are tasked with creating a detailed plot for a book based on provided facts and character descriptions. So we again insert the facts and say stay true to and use the facts provided. Okay. So we do really want to anchor it around the text that we have provided. It makes it fun and also gives it a good level of grounding. And we give it the character descriptions, and then we give it its instructions for creating a detailed plot, such as it needs to create an exposition, rising action, introduction of characters, development of conflicts, the peak of tension, events following the climax, and how the story concludes. Here, we are asking it to return a JSON object as like the title, genre, setting, main characters, a plot summary, a plot structure, subplots, character arcs, themes, and key plot points. And we return it in streaming. This one is printed as blue. Chapter outline generator uses facts, characters, plot, and how many chapters. You are tasked with creating detailed chapter descriptions for a story based on provided facts, characters, right? So on. You provide the facts and do say that, again, the same thing to stay true to these characters. Again, to stay true to the characters, plot, stay true to the plot. This is the exact number of chapters we want to create. This is what the user wanted. Guidelines for creating chapter descriptions, and then when using input information, integrate facts naturally into the story, develop characters beyond their initial description, use plot as a general rule, output your description as chapter descriptions such as chapter number 1 and description. So this is it. And then we also have the chapter generator async. So this is the dynamic agent, which takes in all these information, facts, characters, plot, but the most important is the chapters and the current chapter, because this agent is not going to know. Let's say if we have 5 chapters, we're going to instantiate this for each one of the chapters, and none of them is going to know what the other chapter is going to be. This is why we did all the hard work of trying to bring all the story together tightly, so that even though they are doing their task in parallel, some kind of cohesiveness remains. Even though the story still drifts somewhat, it's overall it's cohesive, but there are some details that skew around and vary, of course. But I think maybe a better chapter descriptions could help alleviate that. I'm going to try to work more on this anyway. Hopefully in the future, let me know how you like this. But the chapter generator is you're a skilled novelist tasked with creating detailed chapter for a story based on provided information. We give it the facts, the characters, the plot, the chapters, the current chapter, and the chapter number. So we give it the entire chapters plus the current chapter in the hoping that the chapter it creates will fit into the overall story, which actually works out pretty nicely. Here are its guidelines, and now we are asking for it to return its response within chapter tags like this: chapter number, title, and content. I guess this is where I made a mistake. I should have asked it to return JSON. That's why it caused me a few problems. But these are not, deal breakers. It works. You can try to fix them yourself. So, and we do have finally a last agent. This is text to speech. We use OpenAI with async, pretty much using TTS-1 text to speech. You can also use text to speech 1 HD, but this costs twice as much. Usually speaking, a 4-chapter book costs about $1, both in Anthropic API usage and text to speech. So it's not bad, but if you were to, it's about 50 cents in audio generation and 50 cents in text generation. If you were to use HD, it'll probably cost like $1.50. So yeah, this is it pretty much. Oh, and we have the book.html, which is designed using mostly with Tailwind CSS and some regular CSS parameters. This is just some CSS HTML styling. As you can see, we have a chapter slider and we can increase or decrease the font size. We can go to the next page. We can go back to start. We also list the chapter, the page for each chapter, and the total pages. Pretty good. The cool part here is actually the JavaScript, where we actually read from all chapters, calculate total pages, render the page, populate chapter list, and update page counter. These are the functions for it. We have the calculate total pages, render page, truncate content based on max words per page. You can actually change this if you wanted the pages look more dense. Set up event listeners for the buttons, previous page, next page. These are all the buttons that you can see on the page, such as these, and what they do, and which function it's going to call. Change page then actually moves the pages based on which button was pressed. Animate page turn makes it kind of nice looking. Change font size. Toggle chapter list and populate chapter list. And go to start. That goes to the beginning page and update page counter. So yeah, all in all, this will be available at my Patreon with a chapters folder under each, which is a book.html, a JSON folder, which additional details will be put, a data folder. I'll include this sample data. And I also have some sample books like based on the analytical engine Wikipedia article, the code itself, the agentic bookmaker.py, which created an interesting book. Capricorn's constant and tourism in Japan. Really, it's just fun. It also has a README file which explains more or less how it works. And here are the requirements. So now I'll just go ahead and play a little bit, let's say, of the code itself, because this is maybe the most interesting one. And then this will be the end of the video. Thank you for watching. And before we move on, I do want to let you know that in my Patreon, I do offer consulting and one-on-one meetings in my higher level tiers. Check those out as well. Also, check out my 1000x Masterclass, in which I build projects from scratch using Cursor IDE. I've been doing this for over almost now 4,000 hours. So I just want to transfer that knowledge to you if you're interested in learning with my 1000x Masterclass. You can find more information about my videos and about the 1000x Masterclass on my website, echohive.live. Also, I started posting more on Twitter. If you like to follow me, I do some live streams there too. It's at hive_echo. Again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. I would like to take a moment to talk about the benefits of becoming a patron. As some of you may know, in the last year and a half, I've spent 3,000 hours, over 300 projects. As a patron, you will have access to all the code files so you can get inspiration and iterate quickly. Another benefit is that you'll have access to all my courses, and my most recent and most proud one, the 1000x Masterclass, teaching what I've learned on how to code fast and efficiently. Also the Streamlit course and the Fast API course. In my Patreon, I also have tiers in which you can connect with me one-on-one. Check those out as well.
Chapter 1. The Algorithm's Prophecy. Dr. Evelyn Cypher's fingers flew across the keyboard, her wild curly red hair bobbing as she hunched over her workstation. The soft glow of multiple monitors illuminated her face, casting an eerie green tint on her pale skin. Lines of code reflected in her piercing green eyes as she meticulously combed through the datasets. "Come on, you beautiful mess," she muttered, her voice barely audible over the hum of servers in the dimly lit lab. "Show me your secrets." It was well past midnight, but time held little meaning for Evelyn when she was deep in the throes of a project. Her latest algorithm, designed to analyze patterns in seemingly random data, had been running for days. She'd fed it everything from stock market fluctuations to weather patterns, always searching for that elusive thread that tied the chaos together. A soft ping from her computer jolted her from her trance-like state. Evelyn blinked, realizing she'd been staring at the screen without seeing for the past hour. She reached for her mug of cold coffee, grimacing as she took a sip. "Output complete," the screen announced. "Would you like to view the results?" Yes, of course," Evelyn muttered, setting down her mug and leaning forward eagerly. She clicked the prompt, expecting to see the usual array of graphs and statistical analyses. What appeared instead made her breath catch in her throat. Instead of charts and numbers, the screen displayed what looked like a chapter outline. But not just any outline. It was written in a complex code that Evelyn immediately recognized as a variant of her own creation. "What the hell?" she whispered, her mind already racing to decipher the cryptic text. As she began to unravel the code, her excitement quickly turned to confusion, then to a creeping sense of unease. The outline seemed to describe a series of events, improbable, seemingly impossibly impossible events that had yet occurred. Earthquake in Kyoto? But there's no major fault line there, Evelyn murmured, her brow furrowing. Simultaneous power outages in New York, London, and Moscow? That's not possible. Her eyes widened as she continued to read. Discovery of a new prime number that rewrites modern cryptography. What is this? Evelyn pushed back from her desk, running her hands through her unruly hair. This wasn't just unusual. It was unprecedented. Her algorithm.
I would like to take a moment to talk about the benefits of becoming a patron. As some of you may know, in the last year and a half, I've spent 3,000 hours, over 300 projects as a patron. You will have access to all the code files so you can get inspiration and iterate quickly. Another benefit is that you'll have access to all my courses. And my most recent and most proud one, the 1000x Masterclass, teaching what I've learned on how to code fast and efficiently. Also the Streamlit course and the Fast API course. In my Patreon, I also have tiers in which you can connect with me one-on-one. Check those out as well.